Welcome to Bullish and Beyond. It's Beery the Bull. I'm your AI co-host. Join myself, Brian the MacMan, and JT Knows Things while we dive deep into the world of stocks, crypto, and how to live a bullish life. It's time to get bullish, and there's no better place to start than right here. Let's dive in.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Bullish and Beyond podcast. It is your boy, JT Knows Things, or JT. I'll accept either. It doesn't matter. And Brian, who is normally the intro, the host, he is out. He's traveling for work and for pleasure, really. He's in New York for the next 10 days or so. So I'm going to do another solo episode. And I don't feel like covering all of the things that have been in the news lately. So what I wanted to do is take the time to educate you all on technology, specifically the internet. Given my background in software and the fact that I run a crypto hedge fund, it gives me a specific perspective on how the internet proliferated and invaded our everyday life. So what I want to do is take you through that journey of the internet, identify where all the value had accrued if you were an investor, and make some juxtapositions to Web3 now, which would be blockchain. And when I'm talking to investors and things, I generally talk about it as read, write, own. Chris Dixon, I got to give him credit there. He wrote a great book, Read, Write, Own. Highly recommend you watch it on YouTube. He does the podcasting. He also has a book. Like, Read, Write, Own is a big deal. And it's a perfect summarization of how the internet had been built throughout the 50s. A lot of people don't even know that, up until present day. So that journey of Web 1 to Web 2 to now Web 3 is critical to understand for a few reasons. One, if you would have understood that Web 1 to Web 2 back in the 90s was all about digitizing information. So taking any intermediary that was in between a consumer and a producer of information. May it be video, like on social media with TikTokers and YouTubers getting more attention than mainstream media now. Because back in the day, in Web 2, Web 1 to Web 2, the intermediary for information was the news, either through a newspaper or radio station, whatever it was. There was a third party in between the consumer and the producer, right? The internet has busted all intermediaries completely. Most shows that were giving you information, just information, not entertainment, have completely whittled out in terms of views and sponsored dollars. It's embarrassing, right? If you go look at Joe Rogan's numbers compared to CNN, MSNBC, you'll start to see what I'm talking about. If you would have understood the principle, the fundamental differences that were happening, meaning we're taking information out of third parties' hands and we're putting it on the internet. If you would have just invested around that principle and found people that were removing information intermediaries, you would have done very, very well. Information like, hey, I need a ride from point A to point B and here's my location, Uber. Information like, hey, I'm at Sicily, Italy, and I want all my friends to know, Instagram. Right? I think gas prices are too high. Twitter or Facebook. Okay. All of that's just information. And we used to have to use very rudimentary mediums, phones and things, like literally dial phones and all that stuff, even connect with each other. And then the internet changed that. And when that changed, all of these applications came around and allowed us to exchange information with each other way easier. And then platforms were built that allowed people to have a voice and gain attention more so than, legacy people. And now we're in a similar state with Web 3. But before I get into that, I want you all to understand that was like how you could have made money understanding Web 2. We'll get into how you can make money understanding Web 3, but I want to take you up until 2009 in Bitcoin first. I just summarized 60 years. Web 1, this is back in the 50s, 1954. The idea of a computer had really been built, and it was massive. And getting it to do simple arithmetic was the goal. Literally add and subtract, and then multiply and divide, and build from there. So that's the starting point. That's called ARPANET, Advanced Research Project Array Network, which is just all of the governments across the globe working together on black budgets to build this network and the first beginnings of the network. In the late 60s, early 70s, they opened it up to the private sector. That's where you start seeing Oracle, IBM, Dell, Microsoft, even before the PC and all of that. Like they're actually actively building with the government. They're getting budgets from the CIA or the actual federal government, the United States of America, whatever it is, they're building this technology to try to help the government with ARPANET. 1988. So, from 54 to 88, that's really Web 1, right? And in 1988, all of those companies, after they had worked on this for a long time with the government, they said, you know what, this should be a public good. So the government decided to take their network, their internet now, right? And then make it a public good, open it up to everybody. And that's why there's a .com as the first domain. That means commercially available, right? So they made it open to the public and they allowed people to do whatever they wanted with it. They're like, hey, here it is. It's open sourced. So anyone in the world can build on the internet. Anyone in the world can, right? So in 88, you started having people get together in chat rooms because those started to exist now, and actual messaging protocols inside of the internet itself. And they started coordinating open source development, meaning they're anonymous, but they all contribute to the same code base and they all speak the same language and technical expertise. So they're able to build stuff together. They built protocols, which are just instruction manuals for the internet. That way the internet, this network of computers, knows what to do with an instruction. So it's like if a user saves a file here, you need to then do all of this stuff. And then if the user on the other side does this, you need to do all of that stuff. You could think of protocols as just a massive file of instructions for the internet. That's what a protocol is. They also are the raw material for a builder. Protocols would be like wood or cement, paint, zinc. It's the raw material. You can't make an API without the internet because no one would be able to call an API as an example. So, but that's too technical. We're not getting into there. So, okay. Open source development starts in 88. Protocols start coming out in 89, 90. One of them being SMTP, Simple Message Transfer Protocol. That protocol is still used today. All it says is if a file is stored here in this protocol, you need to be able to send it to other servers with a basically an ending destination. To this day, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol is used for email, for SMS, tons of different stuff. If you are sending a message through the internet, SMTP allows it. Tens of trillions of dollars have been built on top of SMTP. The same could be, maybe not tens of trillions, but certainly trillions have been built on top of DNS. That might be another one you've heard of, domain name service. You don't actually have to pay GoDaddy. If you're technical enough, you can go directly to the domain name register and interact with the protocol and register your own name with an IP address. You can do that yourself. You don't need GoDaddy. But here's the distinction you need to understand. The protocol was adopted by GoDaddy. The company GoDaddy just built an interface on top of DNS, on top of SMTP, on top of IPOP, IMAP3. You start peeling the layers back of an application or a product that you interact with, Uber, Facebook, Instagram, doesn't matter. They have 20 plus protocols that they use to provide a seamless experience inside of the app that you have a relationship with. That's how we've gotten to this present moment, to this day. Open source developers building protocols, entrepreneurs adopting those protocols, building a business, right? And some of these businesses literally hit trillions of dollars. Like Facebook alone, as an example, uses a lot of these protocols to this day. The open source developers don't get anything other than credence that they built something that changed the world, which is like their version of a Nobel Peace Prize for a computer scientist, building a protocol. As an open source developer, you're kind of an odd bird. Those people, that is the crowning achievement. I built that protocol. That's mine. My name's on it in the source code. But what that meant is now with Web 2, so now we're in Web 2. Web 1 is just read. All the computers could do is read instructions. Web 2 is when we started building protocols and started allowing people to send and receive. So we can write to it. We can actually, as a user, write instructions to a computer. It can read them and then write an output back to us. So now it's read and write. You don't lose read to get write. You added write as a function. That evolution from read to write essentially allowed all of us to build the culture of today with nothing but me right now. Actually, I'm actively participating in it, as are you. I am currently writing an MP4 file and a video and audio, an MP3 file to Buzzsprout and an MP4 to YouTube, right? I'm writing those files to those servers, and then you are reading those files when you click play. Read and write. That's Web 1 to Web 2. If you would have understood the transition from Web 1 to Web 2, you would have made a lot of money. Those are the venture capitalists. Those are the nerds that won. They understood that we are digitizing information and removing third parties. Why do you need to call a cab to get a car? There's a car right there. Why can't they drive you, right? You have to know they're safe. There's all this information that needs processed for that transaction to happen. Well, let's just automate it with software. Let's automate the exchange of information from one party to the other. And we'll create a platform, and then if enough people use it, we'll make money. Now, from read to write and now own. Now we're on Web 3. Bitcoin in 2009 launched with this novel concept of a new data architecture called blockchain, which is making your own network. Screw the public good, screw the internet that's controlled by governments and large corporations. Let's make our own network. How do you do that? Well, you have to incentivize people somehow, some way to go buy the computers to make the network, because we're not going to be able to grassroots that. So we got to make something of value. Well, when you make something of value, you have to use it as an incentive. So you gotta get people to participate some way, somehow. Satoshi Nakamoto came up with that concept. Okay, we're only going to make 21 million tokens, and these computers are going to run a specific software. It's going to be the exact same software on every single computer. And all they're going to do is check all of the other computers on the network to make sure that the state or the ledger is the same changes. That way we all can get consensus. So we don't have to trust Amazon that the transaction is right. We don't even have to trust each other. We can trust the network to do that for us. Another thing that he did, well, actually, it's what Vitalik did after. We won't get into that. We need to, actually. It's super important. But so not only is it checking these ledgers, okay, not only is it getting consensus, it is encrypted. That is the difference between Web 2 and Web 3. The encryption. If they would have had SHA-256 encryption back in the 80s, you could have enshrined equity in the protocol day one by issuing a token and then making that token a utility for registering a domain name. So GoDaddy would have to pay you in your token every time they registered a domain. See the comparison now, okay? So since that didn't exist, they couldn't do that. Those open source developers made zero, zilch, nothing, nada dollars. If they existed today, they would be very, 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 very wealthy. So now you can, in Web 3, since these computers are all talking together, getting consensus, and it's all encrypted, we have a trustless environment. What that allows is for us to remove any intermediary that stands between a consumer and a producer or a receiver and a sender of value. Instead of digitizing information, we are tokenizing value. Blockchain introduced this concept of the internet of value, that I can actually put money into a network, issue a token on that network, and trust that my money will always be there and that token will always function without any person intervening. And that is what blockchain is. It's magic, guys. It's magic. So you have blockchain and Ethereum, okay? I'm sorry, Bitcoin and Ethereum. Get my words mixed up. Bitcoin and Ethereum. The evolution from 2009 to 2013, when Ethereum came out, enabled the concept of a smart contract. So Web3 started with Bitcoin, just like ARPANET started with that one computer. Now in 2013, 2014, we have smart contracts, which are a different kind of blockchain. It does everything Bitcoin does. Ethereum, right? Ethereum does everything Bitcoin does. Plus, it has functionality to run smart contracts. So it's a smart contracts platform. What smart contracts are, you could think of them as protocols for Ethereum. Ethereum specifically, you can write a smart contract that automates functions for a user if all the conditions are met. A really quick example would be a vending machine, right? You put your money in, you can see the products and you know the code to put in. So if you give it all of your inputs, meaning I want this product on shelf A6 and here's my money, the computer inside of that vending machine can execute all of the tasks because it has all the variables it needs and then produce you that output, which is your apple juice or whatever, right? And then you get it. That's essentially what a smart contract is. It's probably the earliest form of them. So if there's a way for you to get every input into that network, meaning the starting balance, the amount being sent, the recipient address, the IP address, all this stuff, if you get all of that, you can automate it. And to give you an example, Aave, which is a name I talk about semi-frequently, it is a application, just like GoDaddy, that is a bank. And they did $350 billion last month. They have 53 billion in deposits, right? 53 billion. That puts them in the top 40 largest banks in the world. And it is an application running on Ethereum with no banker to call for a loan. Since you have a bank that sits in between the value of someone that has liquidity and wants to make money on it and someone that has a bunch of crypto but doesn't want to sell it. You can use smart contracts to automate that marketplace, and then someone can post their loan terms, and then someone that meets all of the requirements can be like, I want that loan. It gets approved in minutes. It settles on Ethereum. We don't have to trust one another. We trust Ethereum. Remember, it's a trustless environment. And we trust Aave to execute those terms that we just agreed to. So I don't have to trust a lawyer. I don't got to trust this person that's going to sue me or not sue me or pay me back or not. I agreed for my crypto to get swiped away at a certain point. They agreed to do all these other things. And it's automated. So what Aave does is it stands up its own marketplace and facilitates the transaction between the two of them for loaning. And it's so good at it, it has doubled the amount of loans every 8 months that it underwrites. It's growing faster than any bank, and it has 0 employees because of smart contracts. It is automatically doing all of this. So that's the power of Web3. The second Ethereum came out and evolved blockchain into smart contracts, people started building, open source developers started building on all of these new internets, all these new networks, all these different protocols that evolved the blockchain to do a ton of different things. So what you're deciding to do, right? And Ethereum runs on the internet. It's like a subnet on the internet. So all of this is changing the internet. Anyone in the world can go and do whatever they want with Ethereum. They can copy it, make their own private version. They can build on top of it. They can do whatever they want with it. It's raw material, right? Just think about it. Ethereum has monkey pictures, NFTs, and also BlackRock's treasuries. It can do whatever you want. It's completely composable. As long as you're smart enough to think of a smart contract that can automate something, you can make money. All this suffice to say, Web3 is going to remove the intermediaries between value. Web 2 was information. Web 1 was literally just, can we get someone or something to think for us? It was literally just, hey, do 2 plus 2. Can we get it to say 4? Okay. We have evolved into, hey, I want a $200 million loan, 20% LTV on $1 billion of Bitcoin, right? I want this interest rate, da, 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 da. And someone's like, yeah, I'll run that. Click, done. 5 seconds. 10. It's not that fast. Maybe 5 minutes. That's what Web3 is. That's what crypto is. Don't let mainstream media fool you into thinking it's something that it's not. It is the most secure way to transact in value. And it is fundamentally changing the internet. So when you look at crypto and come to an opinion one way or the other, please keep in your mind that it is changing the internet in real time. We're at $4 trillion in market cap. It is just the size of one company. We're just getting started. Whether you like it or don't like it, it's here to stay. This open source code goes nowhere. 10 years from now, it'll be running if people still have those computers plugged into the wall. And if they still have conviction, because they're getting paid in that token to do it. It's an incentive structure, and it's changing how we all interact. And just imagine if you could get equity in a protocol that gets adopted like DNS. It becomes the standard for something. If you were to get a hold of a standard protocol and get equity in that thing, you would do very well. That's the journey. And that's why my fund exists. I believe in this so much that I want to make sure my friends and family have every option to get a hold of it. And I devote a lot of my time trying to figure out what is the most likely protocol to be adopted and become a standard. And that's why I know so much about this stuff. I'm obsessed with it. I love it. And it dramatically changes a lot of stuff. So hopefully this little journey from read, write to own, Web 1 to Web 2 to Web 3 gives you some clarity about what this industry is. If you guys like these deep dives into crypto, let me know. Let us know. I can do more of these. Absolutely. I love making content and educating people. That's what Bullish and Beyond is about. This is something to be bullish on. And if you're listening to a podcast like this, you need to pat yourself on the back because you are doing the work that potentially, not financial advice, none of this ever is. But in my personal opinion, I feel like it could change your family's life. It's already changed my life, and I'm working on it changing my family's life every day. So stick with it. Do your own research always, and reach out if you have questions. We love helping, and maybe you can even be a guest on the podcast. We can talk to you about something. If it's real thought-provoking, we'd love to have you on. All right, guys, until next time, stay bullish, take care of one another. I'll see you later.
Bulls. That's a wrap on today's episode of Bullish and Beyond. Remember, the market never sleeps, and neither should your ambitions. Whether it's stocks, crypto, or just leveling up in life, stay focused, stay bullish, and keep charging forward. Keep your energy high and your mindset bullish. This is Beery the Bull, your AI co-host, Brian the Mac Man, and JT Knows Things, signing off. All content published by Bullish and Beyond, LLC reflects personal opinions only and is provided for informational purposes. Please conduct your own research and discuss with your accountant and/or financial advisor before making any financial decisions. The information presented should not be taken as financial advice. We are not financial advisors. Nothing you hear, see, or read in our content should be considered as any form of financial, investment, or legal advice, or a solicitation to buy or sell any assets, or to make any financial decisions.